Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk metal. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the career of one of the best new wave of British heavy metal bands, but also one that had very little recording output back in the day. They did demo a lot of material, but very little of it saw the light of day until years and years later. The band we are talking about is Sweet Savage. This band was out of Belfast in Northern Ireland, and they got started right at the start of the new wave of British heavy metal, coming together in 1979 under the name Teaser, which, yeah, probably wasn't the most unique band name, so they pretty quickly moved on to the much more unique Sweet Savage. At least it would have been completely unique if this band from the United States hadn't used the same name for this album in around 1985. But other than that, Sweet Savage is, yeah, a pretty iconic and unique name. It's a name I think most heavy metal fans have heard of since the band got the Metallica cover treatment in the 1990s as the B-side of the Forgiven or the Unforgiven single. But yeah, not a lot of folks maybe have heard some of the original Sweet Savage material. So that's what we're going to be working on here tonight. Now, the band did catch some breaks early in their career. They got to be opening band for lots of relatively big tours that went through the United Kingdom. These included Wishbone Ash, Budgie, and Thin Lizzy, among others. So there were eyeballs on this band. It's not like they were only playing once every other month for 10 guys down at the local pub. They were out on the road and sharing the stage with some noteworthy acts. And while they were on one of these tours around the UK in late 1980, they managed to get into the BBC recording studios to do a session for the Friday Rock Show. What happened back in the day was, usually these kind of younger up and coming bands would be given a chance to come in, record 4 songs there live in the BBC studio, and they'd have a program called the Friday Rock Show that would feature the music from it. And Sweet Savage got to partake in this. Their session was bootlegged and floated around for a long time. You can find a really nice version of it on this compilation LP from a few years ago that includes BBC sessions from multiple bands. This one also includes Diamond Head, Black Axe, More, Raven, Girl School, and Vardis. But yeah, as good as most of those are, truth be told, I bought this mainly to get a really good sounding copy of the Sweet Savage session. It was recorded on December 3rd, 1980, and then saw national airplay on December 19th, 1980. So again, featured 4 songs. We've got Killing Time, Eye of the Storm, Into the Night, and Queen's Vengeance. And I'm going to play a clip of Eye of the Storm to give you a good idea of what the band was sounding like in late 1980. Yeah, so you can hear right away, Sweet Savage, one of the most raw and aggressive bands of that era. Keep in mind, they were writing this stuff in 1979 and 1980. This is a couple of years before Metal Blade Records even exists in the States. And they've already got, a sound that sort of starts laying the blueprint for, thrash metal and speed metal that's going to come. But Sweet Savage is way ahead of the curve. The session is outstanding. All 4 tracks are great. One of them was selected by the BBC to be included on an official compilation album that did come out back in the day. The BBC studios made two heavy metal compilations based on taking tracks from these sessions and splicing them together. And Sweet Savage, with Eye of the Storm, was featured on this one called The Friday Rock Show. The other one is called Metal Explosion. It also has some very cool songs that didn't really get featured anywhere else on material. So, another reason that it's always a good idea to pick up these early new wave of British heavy metal compilations. So the band's out on the road with some well-known acts. They've gotten national feature here on the Friday Rock Show through the BBC. 1981, they get picked up by Park Records and they get to make their first single. The single has the sort of now iconic photograph of the band on the cover, and it features the songs Killing Time and Take No Prisoners. We'll check out a clip of both of them. We'll start with Take No Prisoners. Let's see how that one sounds. No way! Yeah! You're gonna survive! Move through the darkness, break through the lines. I ain't taking all my prisoners and paying all my fines. Tired of being cut down on prime. Tired of being prisoners, made to stand in line. So yeah, there's a little bit of Take No Prisoners. Not a bad song. Still have, that very raw, kind of gravelly vocals of Ray Howler. Sounds really good for this type of, rough material. But yeah, a little bit of a pacier song as well. So now let's check out a bit of the flip side, Killing Time. This is the song that was covered by Metallica in the early 90s, but here's Sweet Savage doing it in the early 1980s.
Come in, now a heavy attack. Must you deceive, I'm moving back. Preparations are made for the journey back. And him as a Bible to supplies are packed. No more nights in this eternal hell. Destination is so far, we're moving out. Killing time. You lost the line. Killing time. You tell me kill. Killing time. What you say? Killing time. Killing time. No, he is needed. Yeah, absolutely smoking yet another track. These songs are very indicative of how Sweet Savage sounded at the time. They were much faster, more aggressive, more energetic than a lot of their contemporaries. I know sometimes people complain that new wave of British heavy metal sounds too wimpy or watered down or too much like 70s rock for them. And some bands did, but to those people, Sweet Savage is always the first band I direct them to. It's like, yeah, go check out this band then, and then come back and tell me how weak and watered down they sound. The Park single sold quite well, reportedly pressed up 1,000 copies that the band ran through relatively fast. The excuse me. The original pressing has red lettering on the yellow labels. A second pressing was done later on. It's very similar to the first pressing, same picture sleeve and all that, except the second pressing has black print on the yellow labels. So it's instantly recognizable as something different. There's also reportedly a little difference down here in the credits somewhere that this one, yeah, has this little print down at the bottom that says under license to Dato Records, DATO. People have always been a little divided on whether this was an official second pressing that was approved by the band or whether it was some kind of, fan club edition, bootleg, or something more like that. It's also not clear exactly when this pressing was done, if it was immediately after the first one had dried up. Some people have proposed this may not have come out until around 1983, when some members of the band had moved on to much bigger acts, and this was seen as a way to kind of capitalize on their popularity. So yeah, if you want the true original press, you should have the one with the red letters. Musically, though, picture sleeve and all, it's exactly the same, and it's a real barn burner. So yeah, the band's doing well from 81 into 1982. They get another compilation appearance. Their song Lady of the Night appeared on a very small compilation called Now in Session. Calling it a compilation might be a bit kind. It's more the equivalent of like one of those local FM radio station samplers that we have a lot of in the United States back in the 80s. So, and they did get another vinyl appearance in, but it was a very, very small one, even by the standard of the day. 1982 also saw the band running into the dreaded lineup issues. Guitarist Trevor Fleming was out. They also decided they wanted to get a dedicated vocalist. I think Ray Haller's vocals on the early stuff are absolutely perfect for the music, but it was decided that, he would just stick to the bass and they would get a dedicated vocalist and hired Robert Casserly to step in behind the mic. Casserly's a good singer, he's got a very good voice. But as you start to hear material, that they were playing around this time, it's clear that it also sounds like they were maybe trying to change directions a bit. Now, some accounts I've read said the band technically broke up in 1982 and then reformed with that new lineup closer to 1984. Other accounts seem to indicate the band was still technically gigging all the way through 1983, and you just didn't see anything else officially come out for a while. The band was reportedly had done demos for a single in 1982 that was going to feature the Raid as well as another track. What was that other track? Give me a second. I always forget this name of what was supposed to be on the flip side. Prospector of Greed. That's the one. So the demo was recorded, but the single was never pressed up. And according to band members, there weren't even test pressings made. It just sat on tape, but never saw the light of day. The band would make a second 7-inch, but not until 84, maybe early 85. It was released through the Crashed Records label, which has this kind of goofy cartoon car on the label. And this one features the track's teaser, which might be a throwback shout out to the band's original name. And on the flip side, a track called Straight Through the Heart. So let's check out and see what the band was sounding like at this point, around 84 into 85. Here is a bit of the song Teaser first up. Okay, not exactly, over the top powered out material like they were doing a couple of years earlier. I like Casserly's voice well enough, but yeah, it seems like they're leaning maybe a tad more commercial. Let's check out and see what they did with the flip side. This is a song called Straight Through the Heart, and I want you to pay attention to the intro riff here, because it might just sound a little familiar. So, all right. I like that song quite a bit. I think it's a really strong one, but it does show the band moving again in a more commercial direction. And about that opening riff, yeah, another, one of the lineup reshuffles there around 83 was, of course, Vivian Campbell was moving on and joined Dio for his new band and got to appear, of course, on the famous Holy Diver album. So, in case you missed it, let's check out the opening riff to the Dio song Caught in the Middle from Holy Diver. Yeah, so it would appear that Vivian had taken some ideas along with him. My understanding is, Campbell was out of the band before this single was recorded, and that would make sense with the timing. He should already have been in the Dio project. But he had worked on the song, and again, some of this material, the band was already, starting to demo in, later 82, maybe early 83. So yeah, there's definitely, some material got recycled onto Holy Diver there. It's not the only point of comparison. Folks have pointed out that the Sweet Savage song Lady Marion has a structure very similar to Rainbow in the Dark. And another one of the old Sweet Savage tunes has some ideas that resurfaced in the song Invisible on Holy Diver. So, yeah, hey, Vivian had worked on the material. It seemed like Sweet Savage wasn't going anywhere. Yeah, what do you do in those situations? I don't know all the implications of how that plays out, but you definitely hear, yeah, some Sweet Savage material in, the backbone of Holy Diver, which is kind of cool. Just sucks for Sweet Savage because while Dio was blowing up, this material did not go over well with the Sweet Savage fan base, and the band pretty quickly fizzled out and would have faded into obscurity had it not been for Metallica getting interest in them when they started covering Killing Time. So in the 90s, you saw Sweet Savage, they did at least a one-off live appearance in 92, trying to maybe, play off the interest from the Metallica single. By around 96, they put out an album called Killing Time, and I think it was through Metal Blade. I might be wrong with that. But it was one of those situations where the band was re-recording old material and maybe adding some new material. Or maybe the new material was just new in the sense that they were old songs nobody had ever heard before. It was always kind of a confusing situation. You had some original members in the band, but of course not everybody could be involved. Vivian Campbell had, moved from strength to strength through Dio and Whitesnake, and now, of course, on to Def Leppard. But yeah, so the Killing Time album was kind of a very confusing item. And personally, I just don't have any interest in hearing bands re-record songs that they did, decade, 10, 20, 30 years earlier. Those things just don't interest me much personally. Now, Sweet Savage did get to release a true brand new studio album in 1998. It was entitled Rune. I have never heard it. I don't know a thing about it. A couple of original members were still in the project at that point. Original guitarist Trevor Fleming had come back into the fold around then. So they did finally get an album out, and they did a second album in 2011. I forget the name of it offhand. It's something like Reincarnation or Resurrection. But the album was a little bittersweet. Trev Fleming had passed away in 2010, the year before that album came out. And that's kind of been it for new material from Sweet Savage. But what about all of these old demos that they had recorded for things like the Raid single? Well, let's face it, almost every project imaginable has gotten the anthology treatment by one label or another over the past, 10 to 20 years. One would assume Sweet Savage was like first in line for that. Killer set of songs, lots of material to delve into, name recognition, if nothing else, through the Metallica connection. And yet there's never been an official anthology of early Sweet Savage material. There has been a lot of bootleg material. In the very early 2000s, one of the people formerly associated with the band was selling CDR compilations on eBay. This is one of them. This was the only one I bought. They were a little pricey. I want to say they were around $20 US per disc. And when you compare them, it seemed kind of clear. Some of them, there was probably some track duplication from one to the next. Some of them also had a relatively small number of tracks. I bought this one from the person because it had a very long track list, and there's only a few duplicate songs on here. So yeah, this kind of was the most bang for the buck. And, being a poor college kid at the time, I had to make the dollar stretch as much as I could. But yeah, they included a nice note with this when I ordered it as well. So you had these things floating around for quite a while. And there's been some other unofficial ones too. Funnily enough, the covers for some of those other eBay CDRs appear in the booklet for a more recent bootleg compilation. So yeah, these are some of the other ones that you could have bought through eBay back in the day. This collection is a more recent one and does a good job of collecting a lot of the early recordings. Some of these are attributed to 1979. It's got, the BBC session, both singles featured. The only thing that annoys me a little bit about this one is it's not completely in chronological order. For example, it's got the Take No Prisoners Killing Time as the last two songs right after Straight Through the Heart and Teaser. I really hate it when labels do that. If you're going to put out an anthology that's, lots of different tracks recorded here and there as demos and singles and EPs over a span of years, please put them in chronological order. Fans, we really want to hear how the band progressed over the years. And we want to do it without having to try to program the CD player to run the tracks in the order of, 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 5, 4, 12, 11, 9, 6. That's just annoying. It's not that hard to put them in a chronological order. It really lets you hear how the band evolved. And that's usually what you want with these anthology collections. So, yeah, this one's a nice collection, but still an unofficial one. There were plans to do an official Sweet Savage 2 LP anthology back around 2010. Some maybe it'd been slightly earlier or later than that. And I think High Roller was one of the labels involved, but the project was pulled and canceled at the last minute. Apparently, some legal concerns had been raised by one of the former band members. So it sounds like it wasn't clear that who had the rights to what material, or somebody wasn't happy with their piece of the pie. I don't know what the details were. I have heard rumors that we're supposed to finally see a official Sweet Savage anthology released in 2024, possibly through High Roller, possibly through other channels. We'll see. It would be great if that happened. They are certainly a band deserving of a nice, full-blown official anthology with all the tracks recorded and are put on there in the correct order. Get them in chronological order, for goodness sake. But yeah, we'll have to see if that plays out or not. But yeah, that is the Sweet Savage story. Fantastic band. Lots of very raw, aggressive things that really kind of help define the template for a lot of power, speed, thrash metal bands in years to come. I suppose at the end of the day, maybe they were just a little bit too far ahead of their time. And, by the time music trends caught up with what Sweet Savage was doing, the band had already sort of fizzled out, with members moving on to other things. And, there's always that, ill-fated change of direction that's kind of hit you straight through the heart. Had to do it. And confusingly enough, yes, Dio also had a song called Straight Through the Heart on Holy Diver, but that's not where the Sweet Savage song ended up. It ended up as part of Caught in the Middle. All right. Now let's talk metal in the comments down below. Sweet Savage fans, what are your favorite tracks? What material do you really like by the band? Do other folks like the second single? Not a big fan of Teaser, but I love Straight Through the Heart. I think the band could have done that type of material all right, but it's really hard to start with material like this, then switch to this style. You're just going to lose so many fans along the way, and getting into that commercial market, it's a tough nut to crack. Uh, do you know out there, again, if you know whether or not there are definite plans and it's in the can to get an official anthology out this year, leave a comment down below so everybody can start saving up their money, make sure they grab a copy of that when it finally comes out. Hopefully, it'll happen this year. All right, that'll do it for this time. Until next time, everybody take care, stay safe, and as always, keep banging your head.